It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. So, before we start this video, I have a valuable word from our sponsor because I'm pretty sure her word right here is definitely going to be very useful. So give me one moment guys, I'll just be right back.
What is President Biden doing for my small business? First and foremost, he nominated a vagina.
Whoa! I'm sorry that you guys had to see my little makeout section because the girl that I'm making out right now is very sexy. Aren't you very sexy? Yes, I am very sexy. So, Joe Biden had some sort of, town hall meeting where a bunch of people asked him like a lot of questions and they got like a lot of answers. And actually, of course, the whole entire thing was just a complete freaking disaster. And so let's react to all of the disasters that I found throughout the whole entire session because the whole entire thing was just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
The other portion is a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that COVID vaccination at the Walgreens.
Mr. Biden is pretty much correct. You see, Black people and Hispanics, even in rural areas, are very stupid to figure out what is the internet. I mean, after all, we live in a time of cell phones, and so naturally no one knows how to use a cell phone. And obviously there's no such thing as pharmacies to actually register in person, or there's like no such thing as libraries. You see, Blacks people and Hispanics are just so stupid to figure out how to use the internet. So yeah, well done on that message. That's like a fantastic job on your end. And it's not as if you have some sort of racial messages in the past about how Black people are like, very, very like, not really Black because you don't vote for you. But yeah, continue on, Mr. President, because you are very wise.
And the biggest thing, though, as you remember, when you and I shouldn't say it that way, as you remember, but when you and I talked last, we talked about it's one thing to have the vaccine, which we didn't have when we came into office, but a vaccinator. How do you get the vaccine into someone's arm?
Well, yes, Mr. Biden, we never, ever got into some of the vaccine. You see, the announcements that happened like back in like November, they don't exist. You see, by the time you went to like the office in December, by January for the inauguration, there was like no such thing as the coronavirus vaccine. And so obviously, those people that sell you those lies about vaccines, they're pretty much conspiracy theorists, and so that's why you don't have any sort of regulation of the coronavirus vaccine.
Chinese leaders, if you know anything about Chinese history, it has always been the time when China has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home. So vastly overstated, the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China. And he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea, I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in western mountains of China, and Taiwan trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful. I said, and by the way, he said he gets it. Culturally, there are different norms at each country, and their leaders are expected to follow.
Yes, Mr. Biden, you are correct. People should never, ever speak out against the genocide of the Muslim people in China. You see, every single last culture is equal, and we shouldn't, cast judgment for a culture that's different than ours. And so naturally, yes, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely correct. Genocide is definitely justifiable in any sort of culture, no matter where it comes from. You don't have the moral responsibility to actually freaking call it out. Because you see, their cultures are different, all cultures are equal, and so that's why you should never call out genocide because it's from China. Whoop-ah! 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 I love Chinese cock, Chinese cock, Chinese cock. I love Chinese cock because I'm Joe Biden.
And the fact is that the concern in many minority communities is black on black, Hispanic on Hispanic, not just. But here's the deal. There has to be much more serious, how can I say, much more serious determination as to what the background and the attitudes of the recruit is, what their views are. There should be much more psychological testing, like you would if you go into the intelligence community. What is it? What are the things that make you respond the way you do?
It's amazing the amount of, privilege that Biden actually has in regards to, favorable media coverage. Because if Donald Trump were to say the exact same comment about black on black crime, well, you see, the media will say stuff like, "Oh my God, you are a fat racist! How dare you want to say black on black crime?" But because it's Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's pretty much the preferred president for the media, they don't actually say anything. The hypocrisy about the coverage for Joe Biden and Donald Trump really shows the bias that they actually have. Because to me, if you're going to cover a president, you have to cover the good and the bad for both presidents. So I'm kind of surprised, of course, and not surprised that the media did not actually freak out for that comment. But it actually is true that black on black crime is in fact an issue.
Like millions of my fellow citizens, I was shaken by the attack on the Capitol on January 6th and on our democracy more broadly by your predecessor and his followers. While I appreciate efforts being made to bring them to justice, I worry about ongoing threats to our country from Americans who embrace white supremacy and conspiracies that align with it. What can your administration do to address this complex and wide-ranging problem?
It's complex, it's wide-ranging, and it's real. I got involved in politics to begin with because of civil rights and opposition to white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, and the most dangerous people in America continue to exist. That is the greatest threat to terror in America, domestic terror. And so I would make sure that my Justice Department and the Civil Rights Division is focused heavily on those very folks. And I would make sure that we, in fact, focus on how to deal with the rise of white supremacy. And you see what's happening in the studies that are beginning to be done, maybe at your university as well, about the impact of former military, former police officers on the growth of white supremacy in some of these groups. You may remember in one of my debates with the former president, I asked him to condemn the Proud Boys. He wouldn't do it. He said, stand by, stand ready, or whatever the phrase exactly was. It is a bane on our existence.
It's very curious that people get this idea that white supremacy is like the biggest threat in our country, because nonstop for the last 4 years, I've seen nothing but like domestic terrorist attacks in regards to Antifa. Throughout the entirety of 2020, of course, Antifa has just been attacking people left and right. There's like no freaking media coverage. Whenever there was like a media coverage of Antifa, they pretty much try to downplay and say, well, you see, it's only like 93% of the whole entire population of Antifa and Black Lives Matter that were actually peaceful. And so like the remaining, like, what was it, 7% is like, so not peaceful, which is like insane to me. And so it seems as though that they conveniently ignore what's happening right now because there hasn't been like some sort of major sort of attack from white supremacists for the last 4 years. I'd like to be proven wrong, but like most of the attacks that I see nowadays are just far left Antifa and Black Lives Matter. So yeah, that is pretty much the cringe that I spotted for like the whole entire town hall. What do you guys think? Please tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.